was being revealed when he went to Pastor to death. When after this round table conference, the communal award, and he said that, now I don't want to see my fellow brethren being treated separately, that is the Harijans, and you wanted to give separate constituency for them, and you wanted to disintegrate the society. That was the excuse he wanted to offer, and he went to Pastor to death, and finally Ambedkar was being coerced, he was being casured to enter into an agreement with him. And we are familiar with it as students of history, or all of us, we know about the so-called Pune Pact. That. And he also made a mockery of Gandhiism when he said that. And how come Gandhi wanted to extol scavenging as a holy profession? Scavenging as a holy profession. మరి దొడ్డు గడగటం ఇవన్నీ కూడా చాలా పవిత్రమైనటువంటిది అని చెప్తూ ఉన్నాడు. But I don't think, and these words have come from his heart, from the bottom of his heart. And I mean, see, he wanted to set an example, and he started, I mean, say, cleaning the toilets and whatever it may be. But Ambedkar looked at it, this is nothing but a political stunt. He wanted to win over the Dalits. And he wanted to make them the part of the Congress party. So, I don't think any sensible man would ever praise scavenging as a holy profession. It's degrading. దొడ్లు గడగటం అన్నటువంటి దాన్ని ఆ ఉన్నటువంటి మలినాన్ని నెత్తి మీద పెట్టుకొని పోవడాన్ని అది హోలీ ప్రొఫెషన్ అని ఎవడంటాడని. నువ్వు పబ్లిసిటీ కోసం అని చెప్పేసి ఒక టీపులు పట్టేసుకొని అందరూ చూసేటప్పుడు ఫోటోలు తీయించుకుంటూ కడిగేసేసేస్తే సరిపోతుందా? So, and he was very critical about the hypocritic attitude of Gandhi. But at the same time, people would say that, well, Ambedkar is quick at criticizing everybody, but Ambedkar doesn't have an ideals. Ambedkar never rose beyond his own community. He always talked about the liberation of these depressed classes, emancipation of these depressed classes. But he never identified himself as a national leader. And he was opposed to the nationalist movement. And when the Congress party and the rest of them, they have boycotted the Britishers, the Simon Commission and all these things, and it is the Ambedkar and who has participated and submitted a memorandum. So, he was not a nationalistic leader. And he was a parochial leader. And he was confined to one particular community and its emancipation, that is the Mahar community. And he couldn't rise beyond that. This is the other side of the Ambedkar. This is what the critics would be saying. But for Ambedkar, yes. For me, it is not a national movement is not important. For me, independence is not important. But the independence of my community, the liberation of my community is more important. What type of democracy you are talking about? Democracy means the rule by the majority. What do you mean by the rule by the majority? The majority would constitute the so-called the Agravarna, and they would be controlling the minority. And he always identified that the Muslims, the Christians, the Sikhs, and the scheduled castes or the scheduled tribes, they were the minorities. He looked at them as the minorities. And he made an interesting observation that, so in the 19th century and 20th century, it is fashionable to talk about nationalism. Right. And we, the students of political science, we call it as nationalism was the 20th century god. Nationalism was the 20th century god. It was an icon, nationalism. It was very fashionable to talk about nationalism. But what is nationalism? The communalism on the part of the majority is nationalism. సమాజంలో ఎక్కువ మంది ఉన్నటువంటి అభిప్రాయాలు ఏకీభవించడమే దాన్నే నువ్వు నేషనలిజం అంటున్నావు. And Indian society is communal. And it is communal. And that communal attitude is being supported by the other classes. and at the cost of the minority communities. It could be the depressed classes, or it could be the Sikhs or the Muslims, whatever. Whenever a minority community wala, right, raises his voice and wanted to ascertain his powers, and immediately say that you are communal. So the same demand, if it is being raised by a majority wala, you call it as nationalism. So what is nationalism to the majority would become a communalism to the minority. హిందువులు ఏది చెప్పినప్పటికీ కానీ అదంతా కూడా ఏమిటంటే జాతీయ భావంతో, జాతీయ ప్రయోజనాల కోసం వాళ్ళు చెప్తున్నారని అంటాడు. దళితుడు అన్నటువంటి వాడు నా హక్కులు ఏమిటి, నా విషయం ఏమిటని అడిగితే నువ్వేమిటో ఇంత ప్రాంతీయ తత్వంతో ఇంత నేరోగా ఆలోచించడం అన్నటువంటి జరుగుతుంటుంది. యు ఆర్ కమ్యూనల్. సో యూ హ్యావ్ డబుల్ స్టాండర్డ్స్. So he said that I am not ashamed of it, admitting that I am the leader for the depressed community. I don't need to claim to be the leader of the entire country. And I was never fond of national movement. And he was being ridiculed that time. Say every time the Europeans have come here, you are ready to go and give a representation and you join hands with them. And you became the member of the Executive Council in 1942, and then you became the law minister in the first interim government, and you are always after the positions. And his answer is that, in what way do I not deserve those positions? Why can't I? And by being a party to the government, by penetrating into the power centers, I can do something to my community. I am not after power. Right. And in the Constituent Assembly also, he was being elected from Bengal province, because he couldn't have enough support from Maharashtra, or at that time Bombay province. At that time you call it as Bombay province. So he has to seek the support of the Muslim League. And he became a member of the Constituent Assembly from General Constituency from Bengal, representing Bengal. But when the country was being partitioned, he lost his membership. Now, how are we going to accommodate him? But Nehru, with all his bitterness, of course Gandhi is more bitter about Dr. Ambedkar. But Nehru is a politician, and also he knows, he is a liberal when compared with that of the other politicians. And he felt that when we need him, and even Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel also felt that his presence is very much needed. And already as a member of the Constituent Assembly representing the Bengal, several of his orations have impressed them very much. And when Nehru has moved the resolution, objectives resolution, Jayakar, a noted member from Bombay province, objected it and said that please wait, the country is in a crisis situation. It looks like the country is going to be partitioned. Let us wait. Let us listen to the Muslim League also. And then he was being mercilessly shouted at by the rest of them. And it was at this juncture that Ambedkar took the floor, of course with the permission of the Constituent Assembly Chairman, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And he kept the Constituent Assembly spellbound for an hour together and said that, and the objectives resolution is going to be the heart of the Constitution. That is what you call the preamble. The preamble of the Constitution is nothing but the objectives resolution. And the preamble would give you an idea about the essence of the Constitution. And can't you just wait for 2 months or 3 months? And don't you want to make that document a document that represents the wishes and reflects the aspirations of the people? So the same people who have shouted Dr. Jayakar listened to him very patiently and said that what you have said is reasonable, and they agreed to postpone it. And such is the convincing capacity of Dr. Ambedkar. He is a first-rate orator. He can disarm his opponents with his convincing arguments. So very much excited about very much pleased with the, of course they were all aware of the greatness of this man. Right? They said that, who else could be? And how are we going to lose your services? So even Gandhiji, they say, we don't know whether Gandhi has really put a word or not. But at that time, the chief minister, of course at that time we call them as the prime ministers. There were no chief ministers. There's the prime minister of Bombay province, BGK. He never liked Dr. Ambedkar. He never liked Dr. Ambedkar. But Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, it seems, talked to him. Nehru talked to him. And even Gandhi has sent a word that you need to accommodate Dr. Ambedkar. We can't lose his services. So he was being co-opted. Because already, I already made a mention about that. Dr. Jayakar, and he was humiliated. And in an utter despair, he has resigned. And so in that case, Dr. Ambedkar was accommodated into the Constituent Assembly. And subsequently, as you know it very well, yes, he was made the chairperson of the Constituent Assembly. But ideas may be Nehru's. Right. Initiative might have come from the right-wing politicians, no doubt about it. But the ability to convince the Constituent Assembly and get them approved, and the credit should go to Dr. Ambedkar. And he is the one who weathered all kinds of opposition or criticisms. One of the members representing the Muslim League, Nasir Ahmad, has said that, what is this constitution? There is nothing originality in it. There is nothing originality in it. You just copy down from the other constitutions. And this constitution is a true copy of the 1935 Government of India Act. Then Ambedkar has said that we agree that we have generously borrowed ideas from different countries, and we have taken a lot from the 1935 Government of India Act. But nothing wrong in borrowing something good. What is wrong in borrowing something good? And he made a fantastic statement. You talked about originality. Who is original? Who is original? And I mean to say, interpret it further in the classroom and to keep them in good humor, and I tell them, Babu, are you not the imprint of your father? You are. Are your mother? You are. Can anybody claim to be original? No, not at all. Ideas are not the monopoly of anybody. Nothing wrong when you make use of the good ideas. You encourage it. So definitely Indian Constitution has borrowed certain good ideas from the different constitutions. But we should have the knack of grabbing that relevant idea and fit it and make it a masterpiece of it. And that is where the skills of Ambedkar were being reflected. It's true that we have borrowed ideas from the different sources, no doubt about it. But don't say that American Indian Constitution is just a copy of 1935 Government of India Act or borrowed from the other countries. Right, the reservations you are talking about. That is where from? Of course, 1935 Government of India Act also provided for the reservation for the first time. No doubt about it. That is true. But there are several institutions which you find it only in the Indian Constitution. Take the case of the Election Commission. Perhaps nowhere in the world you have a body which is independent and which enjoys the constitutional status like that of the Election Commission in India. Even in America, the elections are farce. And they are not that impartial when compared to the elections in India. It's a different matter that the politicians, yes, they tamper with the election process, but the election machinery is known for its impartiality in India. And the Finance Commission you are talking about, and nowhere in the world you have a constitutional body called the Finance Commission, which for every 5 years or earlier would be deciding upon the allocation of the resources between the national government and the state government. So a lot of ideas, you cannot say that, you cannot deny that, and they were the brain children, I would say, of the important people of that participated in the Constituent Assembly. So it is unfair to say that Ambedkar didn't play a very important role, and he is the one who defended every class, convinced every member, and got it done. And but for Dr. Ambedkar, but for his agitations at different times, whenever any foreign mission has visited, and he used to submit a memorandum and say that, what about what measures you are going to initiate for the emancipation of these people? What rights you are going to introduce? I mean, you talk about the fundamental rights, but fundamental rights could be better enjoyed only by the well-off in the society. But what about these poorer sections? And they need certain safeguards. So it is the untiring effort on the part of Ambedkar which ultimately made the people like Gandhi. And because Gandhi was always opposed to giving any special thing. And he talks about the Harijans, no doubt about it. But he never wanted any privileges to be extended to these people. A lip service. So today you are talking about social justice. Right? And many of the privileges that our community people have been enjoying were only the gift of Dr. Ambedkar. And he did take an active role in ensuring the constitutional safeguards to the vulnerable sections of the society. And he might not have taken care of the rest of it, but that is what is needed. I need a doctor when I am sick. A healthy man doesn't need a doctor. So in a society also, and the so-called died better off in the society, they don't need any kind of safeguards. And it is only the vulnerable sections. So he is the Messiah, and he is the icon, and it is said that Dr. Ambedkar is the millennium man. You are talking about the millennium development goals. And perhaps he is the millennium man. And his legal knowledge, yes. And his law, wheel, the wheel of law. It's a wheel. The law also is dynamic. And this law, which is dynamic, which is like a wheel, provided you the constitutional safeguards. So this is what little I know about Dr. Ambedkar and his contribution to the Constituent Assembly. Anything you wanted to?
ఈరోజు కృపాదారం గారి లెక్చర్ ఉన్నది కాబట్టి ఈరోజు మనం పిలవగానే వచ్చి వారి విలువైన సమయాన్ని ఇక్కడ స్పెండ్ చేసినందుకు వారికి అందరి తరపున జై భీములు తెలియజేస్తూ ముగిస్తున్నాను. జై భీమ్.